we've got 2 new runners here, which means 2 new sets of fun facts. Let's learn a little bit about these runners, see if they have any similarities.
Yeah, so Mr. Fancy Pants, he's built a 212cc mini bike, and he already said that with the money he might win or whatever he gets for Amazon, that's his school supplies. Luckily, he's in an engines class, so that counts.
Nice. I love it.
So he's built a 212cc mini bike. He loves Mountain Dew, and he is an FFA officer. W is also one of our FFA officers. His favorite drink
FFA
is
officer,
Celsius.
FFA officer versus FFA officer.
FFA officer versus
Cool.
FFA officer.
Small world.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. His favorite drink is Celsius unless he has an empty stomach. And he rides his 125 SSR dirt bike whenever he gets the chance, which isn't very often because he's doing CAD tournaments and ag mechanics, and he's an FFA officer, so few and far between. Yeah.
So we got dirt bike rider versus dirt bike rider.
Dirt bike rider,
Celsius,
FFA officer versus FFA officer.
FFA versus FFA. Celsius versus Mountain Dew.
Yeah,
So
I
I
think
guess-
that's the ultimate.
Yeah, that's going to be, we're going to find out which one makes you better at CAD.
Yep.
All right, awesome. So listen, here we go. This next match between Mr. Fancy Pants in 10th grade at W in 10th grade, lifelong friends, battling it out here to see who goes to the finals. Here we go. This battle begins in 3, 2, 1, go. What is the mass of this part in XXX grams? We are now working with a part in grams. Make sure that your units are millimeters and grams, and both of our runners now have a physical copy of this print. So let's take a look and see how they approach this challenge. This one looks kind of similar to that one we had earlier, but a little bit of a tricky feature on this one.
Yep, the Toby trap, I think, is what we're going to have to name that from here on out.
Yes,
so
indeed.
Sure.
Yeah, tricky one. Yeah, Ken Haley says, ooh, tricky one. Yeah, that and the feature that that I'm sure people are noticing and that they are referring to is this feature here that's kind of up above. It's almost like a counter bore in the upper half of this part. And so this is going to be this is going to challenge these guys, I think. We're going to see some action here.
And I think the Ivan exploit's not going to be able to work the way they think it would. So that's where...
Yeah, last match we saw the Ivan exploit. We saw that it didn't really matter where those legs were located because you would end up with the same mess. This match, it's definitely going to matter because that counter bore is going through a curved surface. So the material on that surface is definitely going to be dependent. It's going to be something where I think if the runners know if they remember their lessons about how to extrude from an offset location, it's going to make their life a lot easier.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think if you can figure out... there's no like set point. It's not like you can base it off the origin for that cutout and that counter bore. So it's there's ways, and order of operations are definitely going to come into effect in here.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Aaron C says plane selection very important here. And I noticed Aaron C earlier when you talked about FFA, he said finite filament analysis. And that made me laugh. So, I like that. Finite filament analysis.
We see looks like
in the discussion about the using the trackpad versus a mouse, FPV Kev says, I use one of them mice with rollerball things so the mouse itself doesn't move. Have you ever used one of those, like a thumb trackball thing?
I had one at my old school, and it was like the guy I took over for left it, and I was like, well, I'm not going to buy a new mouse. And it was like, oh, just go, I'd tell kids, go do something on my computer. Like, hey, just go do this real quick. If it's not working on yours, jump on mine. And they'd sit there and it was like foreign, completely different. So they'd keep moving it and it's not working. And
yeah,
it was nice as like a pointer though, because I could take it with me up to the front of the room and then use it. And so it kind of worked pretty well that way.
Well, I really like seeing Mr. Fancy Pants there. He had that sketch with all those extra lines. Nothing is trimmed up and it's no problem for on shape. He was able just to go through and click those different regions. So that was pretty cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so there we go. So Mr. Fancy Pants finishes the first feature, takes first blood, guys. Now has that extrusion with that kind of notch cut out of it. So that's great. Now this part is meant to be some type of a coupling. So you would put 2 bars together. You would use this thing to hold those bars together. So that means you're going to need to clamp down on those bars, and that's why we've got that counter bore shape. The question is, how is he going to create that geometry?
Mm-hmm. I think he's running into that issue right now as well.
Yeah. FPV Kev sounds like he's had a similar situation to what you were saying, where his coworkers come over and says, the guys I work with hate the trackball mouse thing with a passion.
Yeah, it's nice. It's almost like security. You don't even need a password. You can just leave that there.
Exactly.
It's like a stick shift nowadays. You can leave your keys in the
Exactly.
ignition and nobody's going to know how to drive it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm teaching some of my
measures.
roommates right now how to drive, and it makes me remember what it was like to have 5-speed, because of course I learned on 5-speed. Actually, I had a 4-speed manual, an Escort Pony, which was a 4-speed manual transmission that Ford made in their Escort model, and then of course learning 5-speed.
Yeah.
So much easier for them to learn.
So I actually taught myself when I started here at this school about 5 years ago. I knew how to drive stick, but like my parents never had any cars when I was old enough to drive. They were all automatic, and then but I could drive a tractor like nothing. But trying to get it to translate over, and you know, tractors are a little more forgiving sometimes, but on the road with people behind you and all that added stress, you know. So we have an old 91 Ford, and so I just took it out one day and drove it, and so it's always around because nobody else knows how to drive it. So I'm always able to just take it, and actually pulled up right next to Fancy Pants' house, and that's where I learned how to drive it at.
Nice.
Just out in the middle of nowhere.
And you're saying that's automobile, or that was the tractor?
That was a truck. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So taking the Ford, it was a 91 Ford pickup.
Nice.
Dually out there, and
nice. Let's go.
Yeah. No stoplights, no traffic. Nobody was around. So I stalled it, whatever.
Yeah. We have a great big van, and I wish it was a dually. I actually had to drive it in the snow the other week, and I was like, oh man, I wish I would have gotten the next model up. I see Aaron C in the chat is flexing a little bit too. Says I learned on a 3-speed tractor, 1952 Farmall Model M. Let's go. FFA approved?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have my grandpa's tractor actually in our shop right now. We're restoring. It's a 1956 International 300.
Wow.
And it was rusted. We actually cleaned it up. These boys actually cleaned it up with the the pressure washer and got rid of like 30 years of dirt seals that were, so now everything started leaking because the dirt cap that was on it is gone now.
Look at it. Fancy Pants on the left there. I saw it. Look at, he was getting ready to do a surfacing feature. I was like, whoa, we're taking this tournament up another level here.
We haven't done surfacing too much. If they've done it, they've learned on their own. It's hard to, from a fabrication standpoint, to wrap your head around the surfacing, because that's not, because it's infinitely thin. It's not a real
yeah, it's, you know, the best way you can think of surfacing, and this is how I always teach my students, is think of it the same way as you think of planes. Like you don't hand off a model with a bunch of planes. You use the planes to construct solid geometry.
Gotcha.
Same idea with surfaces. The surfaces are tools you use to construct solid geometry. And if you start thinking of it that way, then like the swoopy, lofty stuff comes down the road. You can learn it then. I actually am just finishing up a series on doing injection mold design split using surfacing, and it's like a real good introduction for surfacing.
That makes sense.
It really helps you kind of keep things nice,
for molding,
nice and tight. Yeah, all in on shape. That should be out in the next couple of weeks, so guys can take a look at that.
Oh, okay. I see how Fancy's doing that.
Yeah.
Let's see what he does.
Let's see how he gets rid. It looks like he's just got that extra material there that he needs to get rid of. Let's see how he handles this. Okay, making that a through. Looks like he's making that a through all. I know that's kind of off on this side of the screen. We'll move that over a little so people can see a little more what he's doing. He's got that manager over on the side.
Yeah, typically I think if you're in your other runners, they'd be able to see it because they're running on bigger screens. These kids on the Chromebooks, they shove everything out of the way so they get the most drawing surface possible.
I get that. Okay. So we might end up seeing an answer here at some point. Atse is in the chat. Hello, Atse. I am late, but not too late. Exactly. Yeah. Okay, and Fancy Pants
models today, so.
Fancy Pants coming in with an answer. 3, 4, 5 out of 18. And that is correct. And guys, we have tied up the series. Going into the semifinals. Who's going to make it through to the finals? They both have 1 point. Wow, wow, wow. Well done. Looked like W got a little bit stuck on that part. It looked like Fancy Pants was able to come through. As soon as he saw it, he had a plan. And 345 is correct. Nice job, Fancy Pants.
Wow. I'm always impressed with Fancy, how he comes about figuring out problems. There's things that I've seen and he's done, and I'm like, I would never have thought to do it like that. I would have gone a different route, you know?
that's one of my favorite things about watching these tournaments, and especially when you get, you know, two people who have very different ways of modeling and troubleshooting, and like it's just so cool to kind of, it's almost like you can see into their mind, to their decision tree. Here we go, one more match. Go, go, go. This is Jim Yu. That's exactly right. So GG, and let's turn back to the Wheel of Fate and see what it has in store for these runners. Here we go. What do you guys think it's going to be? I'm going to give this a shuffle. There's only 3 possible answers. You got a 1 in 3 chance. This is your time. Follow the queen, follow the queen.
Jim says 13.
Here we go.
13, right?
Yep.